Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Bethesda. Love them or hate them, you gotta admit they make some pretty ambitious games. Now, I've been a fan of Bethesda since 2008 when I first played Fallout 3. Now, after the debacle of Fallout 4, I kind of stopped being a Bethesda fan, and so when Starfield was announced, I was kind of ambivalent. Little did I know that Bethesda would save modern gaming.
Starfield was developed and published by Bethesda and released on September the 6th, 2023. And in the time since its release, I've put over 70 bloody hours into the game. Starfield is an evolution of the first-person gameplay seen in other Bethesda titles. Specifically, it iterates upon the first-person shooting seen in Fallout 4. In fact, a lot of this game iterates upon the gameplay seen in Fallout 4. Gameplay, as expected, takes place from the first or third-person perspective, although most will just stick with the default first-person view and only use the third-person view to admire the armor. You have on-foot gameplay and space-based gameplay. On foot, you have a number of quick slots for your weapons and consumables. The game thankfully sticks with the Bethesda standard of having non-regenerative health, but this time around there are a bunch of status effects that you will have to watch out for, and you will need to use a specific aid kit to fix certain afflictions. Or you can just sleep it off, that works too. On-foot gameplay lets you rearrange an enemy's face with ranged or melee weapons. You can unlock certifications for the various types of weapons, and using a weapon you have a certification for will net you a damage bonus. The weapons in this game are pretty decently realized, especially when compared to Fallout 4's. They are sadly not altogether unique and feel very contemporary. Hell, you can blast bastards all day long with the back-to-back world champ and an Ithaca shotgun. My favorite weapon in the game is this Space P90 that shoots explosive bullets. You can sprint in this game, but that is tied to your oxygen meter. If you run out of oxygen, you start building up CO2 and then you will eventually take damage. When you go into an area with zero atmosphere, you don't run out of oxygen though. You can pick up a jetpack and fly a little bit, and this of course depends upon the gravity. All told, this on-foot gameplay is pretty bloody good. It enhances what came before and gives you a fun visceral experience. In space! You control your starship from either the first or third person. One thing that kind of sucks about the game is that the ships look kind of crap, but that's because they're meant to be modular, and you have a whole suite of customization options for your ships. You can buy ships and you can capture them. You can get lucky and find them, and your space dad can give you one. You got a bunch of different types of ships to choose from simple freighters to warships. You can control the smaller ships right from the get-go, but to control larger ones, you'll have to unlock a specialization. Your ships can be upgraded with better weapons and machinery, but you will need to unlock a certain specialization to keep upgrading them. A few elements of ship control and combat are tied to what you unlock as you level up. In space combat, it's primarily done like you're flying an airplane, which is fine since it makes combat simpler and more fun as you can focus on shooting bastards instead of astronavigation. When in space combat, you gotta manage your power levels, and as you take damage, you can lose power here and there. But by the time this happens, you might actually already be dead anyway. Your ship will have shields, and they can take a pretty good beating, at least depending upon the enemy's level. Your ship's hull might not last that many hits, however. You can carry some spare parts to heal the ship, and this will help in some of the battles. You can target a ship's different systems for specific damage, and you can even disable a ship and board it and capture it, and that is every bit as awesome as it sounds. If things get too hairy, you can power up your FTL drive and jump away. And if you find yourself beset by high-level enemies, discretion may be the better part of valor. After a battle, you can loot the wreckage of enemy ships for resources and ship parts. Ship combat is nothing short of excellent. It's easy enough to understand quickly and fun enough to not get boring. And thankfully, it's fully integrated into gameplay, as you're not just fighting in a big empty. And sometimes, when you jump into a system, there will be friendly random people to talk to, in addition to enemies to fight. The level up system is an excellent evolution of the classic Bethesda leveling system. First, your enemies do not level with you. Thank the Emperor. The only thing that has been removed from the classic Bethesda leveling system entirely is the ability to pick specific stats. I I didn't really miss it, so I get why they cut that part out. When you level up, you will get a skill point to spend. You have a certain set of skills to choose from, and you can unlock different ranks in each skill, and each rank only becomes available once you meet a certain requirement, which is very similar to what we saw back in the old Elder Scrolls days. The level up system is pretty slick. It's easy enough for the nub and deep enough for the vet. Unlike in Fallout, you don't have a Pip-Boy for your inventory and you just bring up a normal menu. And the menu is decently laid out. Sometimes it can be a little annoying to check the map and then get back to gameplay, but as UIs go, it's better than Skyrim at least. From the menu, you can fast travel to just about anywhere. This is a major quality of life upgrade because there will be a great deal of traveling in this game, and it would get really tedious, really bloody fast if you had to go all the way back to the ship to travel from system to system or to and from different locations on a given planet. There will be a few places you cannot fast travel to and from, but this is very rare. Starfield does not want to waste your time, and this concept of not wasting your time applies to the whole bloody game. The shops are right by the landing pad so you can sell your loot. However, Bethesda still doesn't get that, just give the shopkeepers infinite money so I don't have to go to 10 bloody shops to offload my space crap. In addition to the shops, everything is easy to get to and nothing is particularly difficult or tedious to complete. Starfield takes the standard Bethesda open world and makes it an open galaxy. This game is bloody huge and takes place in what is called the settled systems. You have numerous planetary systems to explore and numerous planets within each system to survey. Or you can do like me and eschew that science crap and blast bastards and loot the bodies. Your ship can only travel so far and you will be limited by your fuel capacity, but you can expand this and you never have to pay for the fuel to explore. There is adventure around every corner and the game never just runs out of content, even if some of that content is just the rather generic shoot bastard in face. The cities in this game are vastly improved from past Bethesda games and feel huge, and each city will be artistically distinct from one another. Armor works the same as it did in the Fallout games. You have the whole set and then the helmet. In this game, armor is more important than before because the armor is your space suit. And if you head out in negative 200 Fahrenheit in jeans and a t-shirt, you might prove your awesomeness, but you will die pretty quickly. What's kind of funny is that happened once. I took off the spacesuit to walk around town in my Han Solo style getup, and then flew to an airless moon, and the game didn't warn me, and thankfully the game does give you an option to have your plain clothes show up in towns without removing your suit. The suits in the game look alright. They are very contemporary too, with some exceptions. You can find the Mantis suit. While it doesn't look like the one from the classic 90s superhero show, it still looks pretty decent and is very reminiscent of a Mando suit. And someone must have been a fan of Bethesda, because the Mantis ship is called the Razor Leaf. Unlike in Fallout Boar, we got a silent text protagonist again, and thus you can do more than say yes like you were a bloody cult member in Far Cry 5. We got all the dialogue options we could ever bloody well want, and finally we got skill checks in the dialogue. Welcome to 2005, Bethesda. Glad you could make it. Now, I will say this, Bethesda has remarkably managed to advance the all-important persuade skill, where usually you just pick the persuade option and be done with it. Here you enter into a minigame, and thank the great and mighty Talos, it has been improved from that god-awful one Bethesda had in Oblivion. Here you have a number of dialogue options to choose from, each with a level of importance. The game does not telegraph which one is the one that will influence the character though, and you have to choose enough functional dialogue to fill up the persuade meter in order to persuade a character. And thankfully, the game does not make the bribe option a 100% success either. Where before Bethesda had a lot of trouble with writing good dialogue, or any dialogue, and making the persuade skill worth a damn, now we got something even better than Mass Effect and KOTOR. Lockpicking has been advanced considerably. Where before it was pretty easy to brute force a lock, here you are skill checked. But not just that, Bethesda has made picking locks something you have to pay attention to. You cannot just spam lockpicks. When you start the minigame, you'll have to pick multiple rows of a lock, and you will have different pick configurations to choose from, and you have to choose these configurations wisely when you pick each row, because you can screw yourself halfway into the minigame and have to start all over again. This made for some aggravation, but damn am I glad they did something different. Character creation has been majorly enhanced since Fallout 4 and Skyrim. The faces can actually look pretty good without mods, and in a nod to Mass Effect, you can pick your own backstory from a pretty extensive list, and each will have their own strengths and weaknesses. I went with the Han Solo class, aka Space Scoundrel, as it spoke the most to me. You start with piloting, diplomacy, and the ability to drill pilots from across the map with a pistol. You can pick from some traits that can give you a strength with a weakness. The trait Kid Stuff is really bloody cool. It gives you parents that you can visit in-game, and they will talk about your adventures. Your Space Mom is voiced by the oddly named Nana Visitor, aka Major Kira from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Space Dad is voiced by the much more normally named Tim Russ, aka Tuvok from Star Trek Voyager, aka We Ain't Found Shit Trooper from Spaceballs. When you pick Kid Stuff, you send money each month to your space parents. But as you play the game, they will give you high-level items, such as a 1911, a kick-ass spacesuit, and Space Dad wins a ship in a game of poker, Han Solo style, and gives it to you. And it's a pretty damn good ship too. All that lovely crafting from Fallout 4 is back. You can upgrade literally everything with various crafting stations, and the outpost building is back too, and is made all the more satisfying as now you can assign crew to man them. So yeah, one of the major controversies about this game is some insinuated that it was made for, shall we say, modern audiences. Thankfully, this is absolutely not the case, as such Shaisa writing is entirely absent from this game. Yeah, there are a few little current year words and concepts to be found, but this game was designed by Bethesda to be fun, and it succeeds in this. Any little annoyances are mere pebbles in an ocean of awesomeness. Graphically, the game looks great. It had better since it came out just a couple weeks ago. This video is going up in the cyberpunk year of 2023, so them graphics better look halfway adequate. The facial animations are what really stand out to me, as they no longer animate like T-600s with rubber skin, and instead the faces have moved to the happy part of the uncanny valley. Everything else is as detailed as it better bloody well be these days. Body animations are pretty fluid too. Sadly, the thing that sucks about Starfield is that it has an absolutely god-awful piss-poor PC port. So the rumor goes like this: Bethy Boy partnered with AMD, and thus us Nvidia people are in Shite Nebula without a spare fuel rod. Whatever the case, this game as of this video runs like ass on a system that should be able to run it. What's worse is that I have the issue where the game freezes every couple of seconds. One of the potential solutions was to put it on an SSD. It was already on an M.2 drive. What's worse is the PC port has absolutely trash tier options. You can run it in borderless or in a window, so you can either run it in the native screen resolution at full screen or windowed. Brilliant, Bethesda! So, I try running it in a window and I get the same problem. Solution: I create a custom ini with a string of other resolutions, so now I can run the game in 1080p borderless. Still get the freezing. 720p? God damn it, game, what more do you want from me? I finally get this game to work, scaled down to 50% of 720p. Bethesda, you did so well. How did you mess up this bad? Is it because this engine is from 2002? So yeah, PC port is kind of borked, and the footage you're seeing here was bloody hard to get, as I had to turn off the downscaling to record the footage. But when I did that, I got the freezes again. So what I've recorded was between the freezes. Hopefully updates and mods will fix this problem, but for now, this game is pretty annoying to play. And so I'm not just shilling this game, I had to really like it, because it was really hard to play. Sound design is transcendent. They got someone with talent to design the sounds, as the bleeps and bloops sound great, almost on par with Mass Effect itself. Guns sound powerful, and even the Space Ithaca sounds like the Hand of Talos. And all the ships make a really great use of my sound system. Voice acting. Oh my god, ladies and gentlemen, Bethesda must have paid the programmers less, because all the VA work sounds good as BioWare. Hey, Bethesda, welcome to 2007! This really makes the game that much more immersive, as the characters feel like real people instead of just mannequins. Yeah, we won't have the memes, but we will have a fun and immersive game, so I'm good with that. Music is another transcendent aspect of the game. Bethesda hired the awesomely named Inon Zur, and he created an amazing soundtrack on par with the likes of Mass Effect and Skyrim. Say what you will about the gameplay, but Skyrim had a damn good set of beats. The soundtrack for Starfield really transports you to the final frontier, and I love the desk-shaking bass of the combat theme. With all this good stuff in mind, let's remember, Bethesda has never had a good track record when it comes to stories, and no amount of modding made Fallout, Boars, or Skyrim's story any better. In my opinion, those games were great for killing an hour or 100 while listening to podcasts, but the stories were just fluff. Starfield is a whole nother experience. I am personally a story-based gamer. My top RPGs until Starfield were Mass Effect 1, Knights of the Old Republic, and New Vegas. And sorry, New Vegas, you gotta make room for another champion now. I love story. So, while gameplay is important, if the story's not great, I don't care how fun the game is, if I can't sink my teeth into a narrative, it's not gonna be that high on my list of great games. Here, we have a game with an actual plot and characters, something that no Bethesda game before could really pull off. We got a game here as good as KOTOR and Mass Effect in terms of story, and that is nothing short of amazing. The game has a very quick start though, that might give you the wrong idea, but let's face it, in a year everyone will be downloading the Quick Start mod anyway. As you start the game, you are a rock rat. You dig up an alien artifact, touch it, and have a Commander Shepard style vision, although this time it's more of a happy vision instead of one of a robot apocalypse. Then, a dude voiced by Moff Gideon shows up and says he had the same kind of vision you did when he touched a similar artifact, and that you need to take his ship to a group of explorers called Constellation. He gives you his Robro and his ship, and the game begins. I get it, yeah, it's fast, and yeah, it makes little sense for Dude Bro to just hand over a ship like that, but the game does call it out, and let me ask you this. Do you want to get into the game, or do you want to play through the Endar Spire, Terrace, and the Jedi Academy, aka 10 hours of prologue, or do you want to just play the bloody game? After you get rushed through the prologue, the rest of the game doesn't do this. Everything is given its proper weight. So like with the other Bethesda games, you can play Starfield pretty much however you want. But there is a proper story for just about all the quests, and the main quest is pretty damn good, and solving the mystery of the artifacts is a really compelling plot hook. The game takes place in the 23rd century. Humanity has left the dead Earth and taken its place in the stars. Humanity was able to discover a device that allowed them to travel faster than light, and they used the gravity drive to travel between planets. The human volume of space is called the Settled Systems, and the two main governments are the United Colonies and the Free Star Alliance. They fought a bitter war years prior to the game, and tension still exists between them. In addition, you have your trash mobs. You've got the Spacers, they're just space bandits, the Crimson Fleet, a group of cutthroat pirates, and the House Varun, a bunch of loonies that worship the Great Serpent. You get a number of party members that will eventually include Moff Gideon, a cowboy and his daughter, and the cowboy is voiced by the dude who voiced Adam Jensen from Deus Ex Human Revolution. My favorite party member by far though is Sarah Morgan. She is an early party member and cute as a button in terms of both looks and depth. Giggity. She starts up as a no-nonsense, strong female, but softens as she gets to know your character, my waifu. She supports you looting the bodies, and will make some snarky comments about what is going on, and will tell you to drop trash if you fill your inventory with it. She has as much character as a Mass Effect babe, and the marriage mechanic from Skyrim returns, but oh my Talos, is it so much better here. It takes many hours for Sarah to launch your USB-D cable, and you gotta really impress her before she will even so much as consider a relationship with you, and it's an awesome series of well-written quests before she will tie the knot with you. The dialogue is 100% mature and adult. In a world where the very concept of interpersonal relationships has been devalued to the point of almost non-existence, seeing this kind of relationship in a current year game is a beautiful thing to see. The dialogue reads like it was written by someone who did actually find their soulmate, and that is combined with the top-notch facial animations. When you finally break down the wall and see the real Sarah Morgan, I kinda got misty-eyed at some of that writing. This kind of writing extends to the side quests as well. It is very deep. Giggity. There are two in particular that I want to mention. One is where you find a generation ship and you have to sort out what to do with it, and another is where you find a planet where robots are cloning historical figures. Those two are BioWare in quality because the generation ship wants to settle on an already settled planet, and the historical figures are locked into a war. Some want to stay on their planet and others want to leave. The galaxy is in your hands, dear viewer. Will you travel the path of the open palm or that of the closed fist? The choice is yours. Starfield is where Bethesda finally grew that beard, and it's a beard as lush and glorious as any sported by ZZ Top.
After 2014, I feared that gaming was pretty much going to die. Every release after 2014 was either some kind of sequel, a remake, a reimagining, and I feared that imagination was all but dead. Well, Starfield has changed all that. It shows that at least Bethesda has imagination and that AAA can actually be legitimately good. And I most assuredly cannot recommend it enough. And so, I am GeneralLotz wishing you good Mass Effect and good Dragon Age, whatever makes you happy.
If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and please consider leaving a like or a comment as the algorithm desires your soul. And I want to thank all those fans who have supported this channel, both past and present.